So I go and do research for this video, and what do I find? Apparently, while I was at work, a new single dropped for Mike and Earl Sweatshirt's album with Surf Gang, Pompeii Utility. And it just reminded me why I'm doing these videos. Because, like I said in the last video, no one has really talked about Surf Gang the way they need to be talked about in the scene. So let's start from the beginning. Let's go for a ride.
Gotta wake up and go catch a play. Serving junkies back to back all day. You know I'll take the riches for the fame. For the love of the game, please don't take it in vain. I'll pop me a play cause these another pain. On count, just keep on fucking on my brain. I'm popping these pills and I sip it on drink.
What's good, y'all? I am Change, and welcome to part one of my breakdown of one of the most interesting collectives in the underground to ever form. And they're still around, but it's definitely different than what it was in the beginning. So, welcome to the breakdown of Surf Gang. Before we get started, let's like and subscribe, like the video, comment on what your favorite Surf Gang song, moment, or artist was, and subscribe to the channel so I can do more breakdowns on other artists and collectives, as well as the Underground News series, which will definitely be continuing on YouTube as well as TikTok. Let's get it going. So, according to a Vice article that I just did research with, the group started roughly around 2018 to early 2019, and it mostly consisted of people having individual relationships with the main figure and creator of the group, EvilGiane. EvilGiane is a New York-based, Brooklyn-based producer, and basically he started getting to know a lot of artists coming around his studio to record, which led to eventually some synergy between them. So the first person that I want to mention is Polo Perks, who I just saw Polo at Tisa's show. And yeah, that was, he's a great artist, but everybody was sort of at their fledgling beginner level, at least in terms of music, compared to where they are now. Polo, I think, has been the most active, the longest active artist out of everybody, because he started making music back when he was first living in Harlem in the Bronx, and then he went to Connecticut for a time to he was with family and with friends and sleeping on people's couches. I'm gonna get more into Polo Perk's story later, but basically he came back from Connecticut to really try and make it out in New York with music, and that's when he met EvilGiane, and things started clicking for them. And then Mo Baretta, who honestly is one of the realest artists in the underground, he was up next. Basically, sort of the second person to come around Gianni's stuff. And this was, he was working with other producers as well, which at the time were part of Surf Gang, Goner and Tommy Too Hotty. They produced some of his early works like Enigma and a couple of early singles that technically were associated with Surf Gang. In Apple Music on streaming platforms, you can see that it says Surf Gang Records as early as 2019 for Mo's projects. So this is when the name first started to develop. And then there were some other people that eventually ended up joining the Surf Gang group a little later than Polo and Mo, like PBG Casper, this emo auto-tune type rapper who was already gaining a little bit of momentum and a fan base from his early, SoundCloud works. And soon after he was a part of Surf Gang, he continued to gain momentum and had songs with Travis Barker drums in the background. And Casper kind of was doing his own thing both before and after the group. So that's him. But, he was pretty crucial to the hooks on some of these songs in terms of the singing and just the overall vibe with the ambient beats that Johnny and everyone else was putting into it. Just a lightning round of other rappers that were affiliated with the group that I don't really have too much to say about, at least at first. We've got Smooth De Niro, we got Bo Bane, we got Jaden, who's actually EvilGiane's brother, or JDN, I don't know how to say these names officially. And Calvo, who I've actually seen Calvo in other groups personally. I joined some Discord servers later on with other underground collectives, and he happened to be there. So his time with Surf Gang was brief, but he was on a couple songs. And then we've got Pasto Flaco, who definitely has a legacy outside of Surf Gang, and definitely has been trying to make his name known in other groups, which I'm sure I'll get to in other videos. And then Harto Falion, who I'm saving him for the last of this lightning round, because basically Harto, you could technically say he's the last original Surf Gang artist still making music for the group. Now that they're all producers mostly. But basically, in 2020, when the pandemic hit, they realized they had gold on their hands with a lot of the music they were putting out. And so they started making music together because, why not? You're holed up together in studios and apartments. You're walking around the city when it's damn near empty, and you start getting dreams. You start having dreams, and you start thinking in terms of Odd Future and Brockhampton and some of these other internet groups, and they started to believe in themselves. And basically, they started putting out SGB, the first compilation tape with many individual and duo tracks. So you had Mo and Bobain on some tracks. You had Pasto Flaco on some other tracks. You had, some Polo Perks things. But for the most part, these were all individual tracks that were meant to get the attention of listeners, sort of to hype them up for future, more synergized releases. One of my favorite songs ever comes from this SGB compilation, though, and that was the song that I played in the intro, Up and Down by Mo Baretta. Classic sample from Sade, classic flow delivery from Mo Baretta. Just all around personal underground favorite song. But basically, after they put out these compilations, they ended up doing these underground warehouse shows and bus shows. I might pull up these bus shows because these clips are too good to go unseen, man. These underground shows, basically pop-ups, were the way the EvilGiane, Polo, Mo, and the other members realized they could make something real out of this. They got an audience out of these teens and underground rap fans who were starved for music in 2020, which was basically a dark age for New York besides, the other sample drill that was going on. I will definitely get into a video about Yellow Tape Boys and that side of the equation because there was actually some cross-pollination there. These bus shows and this warehouse stuff and SGB, it got the attention of one particular girl, Baby Sosa. And Baby Sosa, you guys might know her now for inspiring Northwest and, just coming out with very esoteric songs and collaborations with other female rappers. But, before she was basically just a New York experimental rap girl trying to be noticed. And so she walked into the studio and she was the missing piece for that Synergy album, that SGV1 tape. And after she did the song Who You Love with EvilGiane earlier, she basically got on the SGV1 tape and sort of made it all work. And so SGV1 dropped with some songs like 6 a.m., Cinderella, Don't Want to Wake Up, and Too Much Going On, which all of those had basically, combined. Everyone from the group was featured. And it really came off like this Brockhampton situation. It really did. SGV1 was, in my opinion, a high point for the group. It basically brought sounds together that you really wouldn't expect to go together, especially in New York, over these ambient beats that basically just became a new style for the city. It really was a unique time. And I'm kind of pissed that I wasn't in New York at the time. I was in college down south. So it's definitely an interesting thing to see from far away. So there were also individual albums by mostly Polo and Mo Baretta that really exemplified what they were doing besides the Synergy stuff. Mo had the "This is not a drill" and "This is not a drill too," which basically were the had the best sample drill, what I call alt drill beats from that era. You know, some crazy samples like "Heaven is Better." You know, in my opinion, one of the best flips of "Fancy" by Drake is the intro to "This is not a drill too," and just other great sample flips. We got Dragon Tales. We got Radio like it was really a time. Go check out "This Is Not a Drill" and "This Is Not a Drill 2." Still available on Mo's page. Mo even brought them back after the whole Surf Gang thing was changed. You know, he still has love for those tapes. I still have love for those tapes. It's a great time if you're looking for an alternative to that K Flock sound that most people think of as drill. You're really gonna think of New York drill differently when you hear that this is not a drill. And in that same vein, Polo Perks also, you know, did some drill stuff, but he worked with different kinds of samples. He worked with these indie rock and emo samples that he listened to in Connecticut when he was a kid. And basically, you know, that created a whole new subgenre and niche that he still plays around with to this day. This is Punk Goes Drill, and I was really hoping that I would get a shirt, the 5 year anniversary of the Punk Goes Drill shirt, by the time I was making these videos, but unfortunately, Rock Nation Distribution really holding off on these Punk Goes Drill 5 year anniversary shirts. So give me my shirts, motherfucker, before part 3, man, so I can rock them. So I can rock it in part 3. You feel me? Um, yeah, and then he dropped a tape with Harrison that was basically, you know, just a showcase of how well these ambient beats still did for these artists on solo projects. Also, I Can't Feel Much 3 was also a highlight for, you know, some more crazy samples. 4:10 a.m. with Mo Baretta, definitely a highlight, and in my opinion, one of the best duo tracks between the two of them. Unfortunately, after SGV1, the group had its first member depart abruptly, and this wasn't the beginning of the end yet. You know, a lot of these tapes that I mentioned were still going and were still had crazy support from the fans and from the producers after Baby Sosa decided to leave. But Baby Sosa leaving was the beginning of the drama. And basically, she got some clout. She got some fashion clout. She got some music clout of her own from other people, other sources. And she dropped Gianni like a hot potato. And the people that she thought was more popular than her, which she thought Casper and Pasto Flacco was more popular than her at the time, according to Reddit, those were the only two people that she followed when she left the group. So it really seemed like a clout move. But in the end, she ended up becoming more, you know, more relevant, more famous. I mean, she ended up being in the same circles as Gianni later on, and I'm going to get to that next video. But, you know, for now, she was leaving Surf Gang in the dust, and it was kind of interesting to see that go on. So with that, you know, that's basically a teaser for the second part of this video, which is all about the implosion of Surf Gang as an artist collective and the transition from it being a rap group to it being a record label ran by producers, which is still a very revolutionary thing in the underground, but it certainly changed the way the group worked and the way that the artists interacted with each other forever. So until then, stay tuned, like the video, subscribe to I Am Change for more Surf Gang and other artist breakdowns, as well as underground news out this Sunday. Thank you so much. Peace.